Well, welcome to Qdabra's weekly webinar. This is Patrick Halstead here, and it is Thursday, May 3rd. And today I'm talking about XML template parts, and this is a follow-on presentation to last week's webinar where we talked about 3 techniques for speeding up your form factory to create forms, go from 5 to 50 forms without spending 10 times the effort. So today we're talking about XML template parts. These were one of the techniques that helps you to create the form factory. And we'll do a quick recap. I'll talk about what XTPs are, how they're created, and why you care. And then we'll go through some sample XTPs. We have these XML template parts that we've developed, and I'll be showing you about 10 or so of them. And of course, then we're going to present an offer to you. If you give us a shout out on our Microsoft Pinpoint site, if you give us a nice review of our webinar, then we will send you the packet of goodies. The fourth item in the webinar today is to give you a quick preview of what's coming with our QRules Common Library. We've been shipping QRules now for 4.5 years, and we provide this common library for InfoPath that helps you plug the gaps of InfoPath. In other words, allows you to access special functions that aren't part of the out-of-box InfoPath. So you can do lots of cool things, and I'll talk about a couple new commands that we're adding to 4.2 and give you a discount code if you're interested in purchasing that. And then finally, I'll answer any questions that you might have. So to start off with, what are XTPs? Well, they're XML template parts. And really, last week, just to quickly recap, you are in the process of adopting SharePoint and scaling up the development of your InfoPath forms. And this is the situation before you had InfoPath. You had to paddle your way across paddle your data across the pond, so to speak. Now you've got InfoPath, so you've got standard XML shipping containers. That's great, but you need to ship more. You need to have a freight carrier that allow you to ship 100 form templates, for example, and all the data with them. So you need to create these form factories to streamline your form creation process. All of your business processes will be InfoPath at some point soon, right? InfoPath and SharePoint with workflows and all that stuff. These are 3 techniques that you can use to quickly scale your form factory and launch it, so to speak. You create your XML template parts with common sections in your form that you can reuse. For example, many forms will have the same header, the same footer. That can be made into an XML template part that can be easily shared and reused throughout your forms, and I'll show you that in a second. The other 2 techniques I'm not going to talk about today. I talked about those in my previous webinar, and if you're listening to this on YouTube, the other webinars are there as well, and you can go back and check those out. But UDCs stand for Universal Data Connections, and those are useful for reducing the time it takes to configure data connections for new forms. Starter forms are also a great technique to contain these XML template parts and UDCs. It just makes it easier for you to provide your form developers with a starting point, a reference, and that gives them a leg up, so to speak, to create their forms. And they don't have to necessarily use everything in their starter form, but they've got it there just in case. So that's wonderful. Now, XML template parts are included in InfoPath. They were shipped in 2007. If you open up InfoPath Designer, you get an option here, if you look down below, to create a form based on create a form template here. You've got 2007 options, you've got 2010 options, and those are included in Designer. Many of you may not have seen that before. So it's easy to go in and create them. But once you create them, you can edit them. And you'll save them as either an XTP form or an XTP2 form for 2010. And then once you've created them, you just drag and drop them into your forms, and it reduces the amount of time it takes to create forms. So that's the main benefit of XML template parts, is that you've got lots of forms you need to create. They share common sections. Creating those sections takes you a lot of time. Rather than redo it for every form, you just drag and drop. Template parts make it easy to streamline your form creation. And you can share it across your team. All your form developers, form designers can use it to quickly build forms. Benefits, obviously, consistency, the ability to save time. You have the same shared look and feel, the same shared data source. XML template parts come with not only the view components, the look and feel, how it looks on the form, but it includes the data source, the data connections, and any rules that you might have beneath those fields. So that's really powerful then to be able to quickly copy this. And I'll show you some examples here in a second. Limitations, well, you've got a couple. Microsoft does not talk about XML template parts very much, and part of the reason is because they think these limitations are more vexing than we do. We actually don't think these limitations are that big of a deal. Number one is if you add an XML template part to your form, it will add a node to your data source, and sometimes you don't want to do that. Well, it's easy enough to just change the binding of the section that you get added and delete the data source that gets added. So that's an easy workaround. And I'll show you that in a second. I've got a couple of template parts that I'll show as part of my demo where I actually do that. But if you add the template part more than once, it will add the nodes to the data source again, and it will prepend them, or not prepend, but it will append them with a suffix. The first version is whatever the node is named, and then it's going to be that name _2 for the second version, and _3 for the third version, and so on. So this is a bit vexing, and obviously, first of all, you're not going to be adding a template part more than once, usually. And you should tell people if they add it in the wrong place, then don't just try to add it again, rather close the form and reopen the previous version and then add it again, and then you won't have that problem. So it's easy to work around that issue, but it's slightly confusing when people do it and they don't know what they did. Template parts also don't automatically update. If your designers are looking for a new version, they need to remove the old version and then re-add it, and that's a bit of a challenge as well, especially forms that are already in production, because it's hard to re-add those. So today I'm going to demo these XML template parts for you. I'm going to show you headers and footers, hide show blocks. We've got a multi-column checkbox. These are simple XTPs. And then we've got some more intermediate ones. In fact, I've got another simple one I didn't mention here, but I'm going to show you the rating form as well, the rating XTP. And then these are all common sections that you can reuse, and you'll get these as part of the webinar package if you go to the Pinpoint site and give us a shout out. And I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. And I'll also show you, after the beginner XTPs, I've got some that are more advanced, and then finally I've got some that are quite advanced, and some of these even require cure-alls. Going too fast. So this is the slide where I go off and show you all the demos. So I'll go to InfoPath here, and we're going to create a blank form, and I'm just going to go through these and show you these template parts. So I've created the template parts already, and I've added them to my InfoPath form. How did I do that? On the ribbon on the top here, you see there's a section for controls here. And if I expand this section, you'll see that at the bottom I have these custom controls. I've got actually about 12 of them. And I'm going to show you these today, but these custom controls, this is where you add the XML template part. If the XML template part isn't there, you can click on the add or remove custom control. Let's do that. And you can add it here. And so when you add it, it asks you to specify the template part. You can add the location for where it is. You can add a template part here. And if we've already added it, it will complain. It will tell us, look, you've already got it there, so you don't want to add it. But that's how you do it. So let's get right at the demo here and quickly create a form. So the first XML template part I'm going to show you is the header form. So I'm adding this header form. Notice that when I clicked on that header with help, it quickly added this section to my form. And this section has a nice header here. It's got my logo, my tagline. It's got a show help button on the right. It's got a section for a title, and then it's got the help. Now there's some instructions in this XML template part. This is a great example of a template part that is instructing the form designer to go to the source and actually clean it up, the data source that is it. So when I added the template part, it added this header group on the right, along with this toggle help field. And we don't want that extra header group. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow the instructions, and we're going to right click and change the binding to my fields, just like it says here in the form. And then we'll drag this section out of the main section. Just going to follow the instructions here. And this is a common best practice. Is when you're creating XML template parts, what you should do is you should give your form designers instructions for how to fix things up. And this is what you see here. I've done those first two steps, those three steps, I deleted those. And now I've just got a few more things I need to do. I'm just going to right click this one and change the binding for this one. That's fine. And I'm going to move the toggle help to my fields. And I'm now going to delete the header group. Okay. And now I can delete the instructions here. I can add a header to my form. Okay, and I can change the text. But let's take a look at this in the preview. Okay, so we open this form up, and I'm just going to drag it over here so you can see this. And you can see here we quickly get a little header section, and it's got this conditional help on it. That's really nice. Okay, I like that. Now let's go one step further and add a footer. So we have also XML template part for the footer here. You can see this here. Footer with TC, there it is. We're going to add that guy in. And just like the header, it's got a little bit of fix up. So we quickly rebind it so we can delete the extraneous node from the data source over here on the right. I'm going to delete that footer node because I don't want that in my data source. So the first thing you do is you change the binding for the section, and then you can delete it, no problem. That was easy. Okay. Now I've got my footer. Now the footer has a link for my terms and conditions, has a nice logo we're going to use for this site. And now I can preview it, and you can see that I've got this footer here along with the header. So isn't that nice? I've quickly added two XML template parts to quickly create a form. Took me about a minute or two. Okay, now let's continue. So this is the beginning of my form, right? So I'm going to actually now go in and add. So I just showed you the header and the footer. And the next form I'm going to show you is, the next XML template part is the hide show block. So we're going to add a hide show block to our form. We're going to just go into the body here, and we're going to add the hide show right there. And you can see here that on the custom controls down below, I have the hide show there. And I'm just going to add that. And this form, this XML template part is a little bit simpler. It doesn't have any instructions, and if I preview it, it's basically just got a little hide show button there. So what I can do is I can add another control inside of it. And that's what I'm going to do next. And then I can quickly hide or show that control based on whether or not they have clicked on the drop down. So here I've got a button. In order to change the button properties, I need to go in here and say, I'm just going to say customer contact. Actually, rate this form. Okay, and I'll do the same thing for the show, the hide. give it a better title here. Now, normally you wouldn't add the rating inside of hide show, but that's what I'm going to do next, is because I want to show you that other control, the rating control. I'm just going to add that in there. Now, if I preview the form, I've got this hide show section, and I can rate the form 3, 4, whatever, close it, and then it's going to remember that, right? So that's just a nice hide show section with a rating inside of it. Of course, you'd probably want to do it a little bit differently, but I just showed you, I just added an XML template part that has hide show, and you can add that over and over again and add different sections in there. And then I've also shown the rating control that allows you to quickly rate the form. Okay, so let's take a look. Some of you may be wondering what the data source looks like. Let's take a look at that real quick. And I'm just going to go to Data, Show Fields. And you can see that the Hide Show section here gets added to the data source, and it includes a node here that controls whether it's visible. Now, this node could be moved into a secondary data source. So this XML template part could be improved. And it's got a title here as well that could be changed as well. These nodes do not necessarily need to be in the main data source. The rating, however, does. And so the rating here, we've added this, and it needs to, we need to change this to probably just say rating group. So when you add these controls, you just want to take a look at what gets added to the data source and make sure that you're following the best practice of making them, descriptive names and so forth. Okay, so next up, we're going to look at the Active Directory user info. Now, this is actually the multi-column checkbox. So the multi-column checkbox is another nice little XML template part that we have for you today. And this template part, it kind of answers, a lot of you have forms and you want them to look like your paper forms. And sometimes you have a checkbox that doesn't look like a radio button. In other words, you want it to be yes or no, but you don't want to use a radio button. And so we've developed this little sample for you that's called the multiple column checkbox. And if I preview this, you can see here that it's got this nice yes/no here, and that's a checkbox, right? So normally with InfoPath, the only way you can do this is with a radio button. And the radio button is a circular, and it doesn't give you that checkbox look and feel. So for paper forms that need the radio button functionality, but the checkbox look and feel, we've devised this XML template part here, and you can change the text here. Obviously, we don't want to be quite so. And will InfoPath be around in 2040? Question mark. And you can add multiple of these and copy them and so forth, and we definitely want to say yes to that. Okay, so that's the fourth XML template part that I've showed you. Now let's take a look at another one here. Now obviously with your forms, you're going to want to to add information about the user and so forth. So I've got another XML template part here called the what's it called? It's called the let's see, it's not added yet. I don't have it here, which is fine because I can go in and add it by clicking on the Add or Remove Custom Controls, and I can go find it on my site. These are all the forms you're getting today. So I've got it added now. And now once it's added, of course, I can just click on it and add it to the form. And this adds a little section to the form that is going to automatically get Active Directory information. Now I have to change it. There's some instructions. And what I've done is for these XML template parts that require a little bit of extra work, I've added some instructions. Let me show you format here. We have a number of XML template parts you're getting. For those that require a little bit of configuration, I've added a text file. And so here's the text file. Now what we need to do is we need to fix it up to specify the server name. And this control I'm adding requires Active Directory or Active Directory web part. So once I've added it, you'll notice that this control added the Active Directory web part here to get my info. And I can just go in and modify it, and I'm just going to take the defaults. But what you would do is you would change the server name from our server, www.formsport.com, to your server name, and you'll need to have our Active Directory web service to use this XML template part. This is one of the more advanced ones. Same thing for the get user info. You'll click on modify, and you'll go in, and all you have to do is change that first section there that I've highlighted. You just change that highlighted server name, and then you just hit next, and you just follow the prompts. Because we have the correct server name there, I'm just going to preview it and show you how this works. Now here, this form actually queries Active Directory web service. When I click on the button here, it automatically gets my name, and you can also type in an alias. And so I think we have someone called Jim Can here in this organization. Maybe not. Yeah, so you can type it in here as well, and it should work. Okay, well that's not working, so we'll skip this part of the demo. But there's probably some instructions I need to read here on this. But if you have any problems with these XML template parts, feel free to just send us an email. Okay, so that's the second one, is the ability to automatically get your information there as part of the Active Directory web part. Now, what's kind of nice about that is, and I didn't show you this, but if you click on this and you click on it again, you can actually change it. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so and then the to alias. Still trying to figure out what this actually is. I should remember what this is. I should have done this for the demo correctly, but anyway, this is user. I know why. It's because it's using the our FormSport site. So yeah, so what this is this is not the same thing as the Active Directory, because we're using the FormSport site. If I were to type in Jim Cantwell's name here, it will automatically find him in there. If I type it in wrong and just say it's James Cantwell, it's not going to find it. It's going to give me a warning that says, hey, that's an invalid alias. And I can also type in Ernesto's alias here, and it will automatically resolve that. So that's how that works. It gives you a button. You can click on this, you can change it to somebody in your organization, and if it resolves it correctly, it will automatically give you another button there. If it doesn't, then it gives you the red warnings. That's kind of a nice little Active Directory check there to make sure you're assigning the forms to the correct people. And it replaces the text field with a button, which is kind of nice because it's all in one place there. It doesn't use up a whole lot of real estate. Okay, so back to our demos. So I've just gone through the first 4 beginner templates. I've also shown you the rating XTP. Those 5 you've got there, and you'll get those as part of the webinar goodies. I'll talk about that in a second. Let's take a look at some of these more advanced ones, the intermediate ones. I've got the contact and address blocks, change history, Captcha control, check-in, check-out. Let's take a look at these real quick. So I'm just going to go ahead and add these to the form here. And what I'm going to do is just add them to the body like I've got these other ones here. And make sure I get it in the right place. Just going to put them on top here, since I keep on adding them on top of one another. So the next XML template part is the contact block. We've got a couple here for you. We've got the advanced one and the extended. You actually have a bunch of other options in the package that we'll send you. The advanced one, the extended one, has a contact block with a bunch of different sections. And this is a very canonical example, a very good example of a typical contact block where you have the name of the person, the home, and the work. Notice that I just added that and it quickly added that whole block into my form, and that was really nice. Now I can also add the other contact block. That's the advanced one here. If I do that, it's going to give me a contact block that has links in it. And this is really useful because it allows you to type in the address, for example, of the contact, in this case our corporate headquarters here in Kirkland, Washington. So if you've got a website, you can put that in here. And we've got our address. So I just added that very quickly to the form, very nicely done. And I can click now on these links. I can go to Microsoft's Live Search, and it will automatically take that address and navigate to that location. There it is. That's really nice. And similarly, if I click on the website link, it will do the same thing. It'll automatically navigate to our website. It happens so fast you didn't even see it there. Okay, so that's really nice. It gives your staff the ability to quickly kind of mash up that information so they can see exactly where somebody lives, for example. And that might be useful when you're filling out a form. Okay, so those are the address blocks. Now, like I said, you've got more than just those. We're giving you the address block extended, and then 3 contact blocks. So we normally charge people $50 for this, and they're getting those all for free. So I hope you're happy about that. Once again, I'll talk about more about how you can get those in a second. Okay, so the next one I want to show you is the change history. This is another one. It's not really that complex, but it's more complex than the typical XML template part. And once again, I'm just going to go up here. I've already added this to my designer, and you can see here that I have the change history there. So I'm just going to click on that and add that change history control. Now, like the header and the footer, this one also has some fix up here, so you have to make sure we do that. So it says here, select the repeating table above. Okay, I got that selected. Under the home manage rules, okay, modify the conditional formatting to replace the formula with this one. So we'll copy this one. Now sometimes when you add an XML template part, it doesn't fix things up like you want. So we're going to do this here. We're going to go into, make sure we have the right one selected, and we're just going to copy it like that. Okay, that's great. That's all we have to do, and then we'll delete the text. And so now when I show you this history control in preview, you can see here that I've got this change history. I can say, okay, this form is pending. Need to fill it out. And when I save it, it's going to copy that down below, and this section down below is read-only, so I can then approve it. And it's just going to create a nice little change history log there for me with the date timestamp and my notes. So this is a nice way to add a change history to your form. It always just adds history. It doesn't actually, allow them to edit once the history's been added. So that's really kind of nice. Okay, so then we've got a few more XML template parts here to show you. We've got the Captcha one. So the Captcha control is something we did recently this year, and this is another nice control that you can add to your form that automatically gives you Captcha logic. And this one's actually pretty complex. If you look at the rules on this, you'll see that there's a lot of stuff going on in the view. And this form is actually going out to, well, is it working or not? It's supposed to be going out to a website to get the information, and it looks like it's not working in the preview here. Let me just try this again. It didn't work either, so I'm going to try one more thing here. I'm going to go in and disconnect from my VPN, and I'm not sure if that's causing a problem or not, but we'll try it again here. It's told that resolve. So if it did resolve, you'd see a picture of the, I've done this in a previous webinar, so you can go back to the webinar we did at the end of February to see this control functioning. But you'd see a picture of the Captcha control, and if you typed in the text for it and clicked on this button, it would automatically allow you to submit it. We're not seeing that here. It may be because the Captcha web service is down. This is relying on a Captcha web service. And you can see that by going into the data connections, taking a look, and you can see we've got these 4 new data connections that got added when we added the XML template part. Those data connections are going off to that web service on the textdisguise.com site, And if that site's down for whatever reason, we're not going to get the functionality. So let's try this just one more time here. I'm sure it's not going to work this time either. But you can see it tried. For a moment there, it paused. But lo and behold, we're not getting an image. So that one is kind of a dud. So we'll ignore that for now. We'll move on. We've got the check-in, check-out. So why would you need a check-in and check-out? Well, because sometimes when you're in the InfoPath browser on SharePoint, you want to make sure that you're not overwriting somebody's form that they just added. So we've added this check-in, check-out that allows you to check out the form when you open it, and it then checks it in when you submit it. So this automatically calls the SharePoint functions for check-in, check-out. If you look up the data connection again here, you'll see that I'm just going to go to data connections here and click on that. Underneath data connections, you'll see that what got added here were those check-in, out data connections. And that's going to allow us to, we have to modify those, and there's a text file here that you can follow. Check-in, check-out, how-to here. Okay, you can click on that to see what you need to do to fix it up, because you will need to point it at your SharePoint site. Check-in logic does not work if you don't have SharePoint. And once you do that, let's just see how these are connected here. Let's take a look at the first one here. This is pointing to my SharePoint site. So these are all going to work for me, but you're going to need to change the server names here and point to your site. So let's just take a quick look at this form in preview. Okay, so you can see that the check-in, check-out doesn't actually include anything except these two buttons. It allows you to, it's checking out the form, and then it's going to, if the form has already been edited, this is a new form, so we're not actually checking it out because we don't have to. But if it wasn't a new form, it would, in other words, if the form had already been saved, it would check it out, and then if I click submit, it will check it in, or close for that matter. So those buttons can be used for check-in, check-out. Okay, so wrapping up here, we've done some intermediate ones. Captcha was kind of a dud, but you can take a look at that webinar at the end of February I did with the Office 365 stuff to see that in action, and it does work, and you'll probably have it working just fine because you'll get the XTP, and that web service will probably be working when you add it to your form. It's not working now for some reason. It's been working up until now. We have some advanced XTPs. I'm just going to show you the first one here, and then you can read up on the other ones. But the first one is the data-driven workflow. And a lot of times you're thinking, well, I want to do workflow with my InfoPath forms, but you're thinking that you need to do SharePoint workflow. Well, that's not true. InfoPath has rich support for rules, and unlike Word and Excel, you can do workflow in your form just using buttons and rules. And so we've actually created an XML template part that you can use to enable that workflow. And this is called the Qdabra workflow. So by adding this template part to my form, I have the ability now to set assignment and submit, approve the form. It's a very simple workflow. It's basically got 3 approvers, and these approvers vary depending on the department. And so I'm going to show you this real quick here. Show you an example of what this form looks like. And I have a site out here where I can show you this. So I'll go to my browser here and navigate to my SharePoint site. And this form here, let's just show you one that was submitted recently. So when you add the Qt flow, the workflow form, the workflow XTP to your form, you'll get this assignment section. And depending on which department you have chosen, you can actually configure it to change the workflow. And that workflow is getting loaded from a secondary config file. And that config file, let me just show you where that is real quick. So it's from the secondary config file, and then of course it shows the change history here. And this form has been completed, so it's not very interesting. But here's the config. Now the config, oops, the wrong one, sorry. The config form, it defines the workflow. So for simple workflows, these are 2 swim lanes here, for up to 5 to 10 swim lanes if you've got less than 10 different states in your workflow. And then I recommend taking a look at InfoPath workflows in the form. And the benefit here is that you can customize it to look however you want, and they don't have to navigate to a separate location in SharePoint to kick off the workflow. So this is an example of that. You can read up on this in the packet. We have a document that shows you how to incorporate this workflow in your form, and we've got the sample workflow document with the XTP there, and you can take a look at that. And I don't have a lot of time left, but I can just show you really quickly. There's a couple other forms we've included in this package today. There's a suggestion form that gives you a suggestion box, and this is a nice technique when you're using InfoPath. Let me just show you this real quick. If you're on, well, we have a customer, so we have a customer contact form, customer support form. I'm just going to show you a leave request form here real quick. So I'm going to fill out one of my leave request forms here from my site. And this has in it the suggestion box. Now up in the right-hand corner, if you look at this form, you can see that I've got a policy and a little light bulb there. If I click on the policy, you'll see the leave request policy for Qdabra. Pretty simple. And then I can hide it again. That's the hide show. If I click on the light bulb here, you'll see that I get a suggestion box. And so I can type something in. And this is a really nice feature to give people an outlet if they want to give you quick feedback on your form. Please increase font size, whatever. They can quickly give you some feedback on your form that you can capture and then you can use to improve the form. They could also just submit a suggestion for improving it in general. So that's the example of the suggestion box in action. You get that as part of the kit today, but there is QRules is required to use it. So let's talk a little bit about the freebies here. So in order to do the freebies, all you have to do is go to that Microsoft Pinpoint site and give us a nice shout out. And now, if you've already done that, that's great. But when we're talking about a shout out, we don't care what the rating is. But if you're going to give us 3 stars, don't tell us we did a great job, because we're going to want 5 stars for that. So that's the SharePoint site. You can just go there. I'm sorry, the Microsoft site. Pinpoint, you can put a review on there. You can say, hey, great job on the webinars, folks. I really appreciate the fact that you're using Zoom It and the larger mouse icons. Or you can just say, hey, you guys need to do this a little better. Or you can say, hey, I'm happy. You guys got weekly webinars for free. You guys rock. So just give us a shout out there, and then when we see that, we will send you the kit. You can also tweet your feedback, and you can go into Twitter and you can find the tweet for the actual event today, and you can retweet it like Ingwork has done here. And then if we see that, we'll also give you the packet. And finally, you can just go to Facebook and like us if you want. That's even easier. So if you do any of those things, we'll send you the packet. Oops, one more thing here I wanted to show you, and that is QRules 4.2. So we have new. For June, we have a whole bunch of new functionality coming. We already have support now for mapping InfoPath forms to SharePoint lists. We're adding support for mapping adding the support for mapping forms to multiple SharePoint lists. So it already can be done, but it's kind of tricky. So we're going to make it a lot simpler, and that's really cool. We also have the ability to upload large files like videos in the background, so you can continue filling out your form. And there's a whole bunch of other functions that Hillary has added to 4.2. And don't forget that 4.1 also included support for managed metadata. We're giving this all to you for this wonderful discount. So I hope you enjoy QRules, and if you do, we are happy to have you as a customer. Finally, questions and answers. I'm available to answer any questions you have, or you can send an email to us or post on our forum. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure presenting, and we look forward to having you here again next week.